Warning: the following contains explicit language and subject matter that may not be suitable for younger listeners, church folk, and people who enjoy kale smoothies.
Okay, Tigers. Look who's here. I'll give you a hint. Hall of Fame, Chicago Bears.
Sammy Sosa?
No.
Come on.
No, football. Coached the 1986,
85
Bears to a Super Bowl victory. It's Mike Ditka.
Do you know Sammy Sosa?
Hey, zip it, kid. I'm a coach that knows about winning. I'm gonna push you guys like you've never been pushed before. Some of you gonna wish I was dead.
It's true. I know it's a weird thought, but it's true.
I eat quitters for breakfast and I spit out their bones.
Delicious.
Now this is gonna be the hardest, most difficult thing you ever attempted in your entire life. But you know what? When it's over.
Get emotional.
When it's over.
When it's over.
You guys are gonna be champions.
Champions!
By God, you're gonna be champions. All right, everybody up. Come on, hands in.
Yeah.
Come on, everybody. Let's go out and kick some butt.
Here we go. On three. Let's have fun. 1, 2, 3. Let's have fun.
Let's have fun. What's that?
I have to do a little, couple seconds of silence. So when I go back, I take that little thing, and it uses it to filter out all the background noise later on. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, forget about that. All right, welcome back to APodAmongstMen. I'm your host, Steve B., a.k.a. Orokusaki Bomb, a.k.a. Pimp Hand of the King, a.k.a. Hitman Leroy Jenkins. It's a new one. I don't know about that. I'm here with two friends of mine, Jeff K., Rob C. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
How you doing?
It's a mic. It's not going to bite you, buddy. Don't worry.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's like right here in my face. Like,
Oh, yeah, no, it tends to do that.
I've been punched before. I don't like this.
Yeah. So these are two gentlemen that I've known for literally decades. Actually, both of you I've known since, I think, almost before the age of 10.
Yeah.
I met your brother in third grade, and
Yes.
we had CCD together around the same time.
Yeah, you're a real dick.
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
That's my
my
folder.
Did you ever tell him what happened?
It was a nice folder. I had a very nice folder. My mom picked out for me at Lord and Taylor or at the outlet. It had dolphins on it.
You had dolphins on a folder.
Just don't be jealous.
And lo and behold, I grew up to be a dolphin trainer. So
Yeah,
who would have thought?
that's the best job that you've ever had.
Yeah, I love it. Honestly, it's a passion of mine. Aside from podcasting, of course.
Yeah, but you closed the Manscaped business down finally.
Yeah, the stump removal wasn't bringing in too much revenue. So anyway, I brought these two guys on because this week we want to talk about coaching, sports, any good real man shit like that, which I don't know much about. So I brought in these two guys because they're both coaches in their respective sports. Jeff in lacrosse, Rob in football.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the basic shit.
The basic shit.
The basic shit. When you guys were growing up, was sports big in your house? Because I know in my house it was, and I didn't watch it. What about you, Rob?
So growing up, watching it, a lot of it just went with my older brother, Frankie. I mean, you've met my older brother.
Shout out to
You've met my
Frankie
older-
C.
Frankie C. We had this whole rule, like whoever had the remote controlled the TV. And even if I had the remote, he would punch me in the arm until I gave him the remote. So
That's
we always-
standard Big Brother.
Standard Big Brother
Yeah.
stuff, And so we always ended up watching sports. And then we had that huge backyard on Meadow Road. And every day after school, Frankie and I, and Frankie's 5 years older than me. So every day we were outside until dark playing whatever the sport was, football, basketball, baseball, soccer even. We even made up stupid games. We used to make up our own golf game. We had a golf club and a crappy soccer ball, so we used to knock the shit out. We would make up our own holes in the backyard.
Just for any listeners out there, Frankie, Rob's older brother, used to actually be my boss at one point in time.
Yeah, my boss too. That was good.
We worked together.
We did at KB Toys. We
along with Jeff's brother.
Yeah,
Yep.
true. We all thought it was going to be a great job working at KB Toys, having some fun. He was a dick.
He wasn't that bad.
And for anyone listening at home too, it's kind of funny to hear this because you see Rob and Frank side by side right now. Like Rob has at least 8 inches and 50 pounds on him, so to hear Rob getting beat up by Frankie
My
is kind
whole
of funny.
family-
Yeah, Frankie's my height.
Yeah, my whole family is. I mean, the mailman was tallest, but we don't know. We don't know what happened. So it was just nonstop. It was just it's sunny out, the weather's nice, get outside, go play. That's what we did. And my whole thing growing up was I had a lot of energy. I was ADHD to the max. I had so much to get out. I was taking a lot of pills in the morning and in the middle of the day at school, which worked out because then I was first online for lunch. But, that's what we did. Mm-hmm. That's what it was growing up back then. I mean, it was early 90s. You went outside and you played. We had the video games and everything like that, but that was saved for a rainy day.
Yep. What about you, Jeffo?
Yeah, I mean, other than my dad watching, I don't think he didn't play stuff, but I mean, you guys both met my dad, and he's kind of more like the gearhead kind of, fixes cars, all that kind of stuff. Just
somebody who knows a lot about Dale Earnhardt.
Definitely.
Your dad reminds me of Red Foreman.
Dale Earnhardt's picture.
Yeah, that's a really good description.
That is a very good description.
Dumbass. Anybody who's seen that 70s show, just think the father, and that's Jeff's dad.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to have to make him download this so he can listen to it on one of his road trips. Right?
Oh, man. I don't know how I never put that together. Dude,
yeah,
that's
I
brilliant.
didn't either. That is a brilliant comparison.
Holy shit.
So I don't know if he ever really played, but he was always kind of involved in us playing. So I did the typical, we talked about a little earlier, Steve, was just T-ball, like every kid does at 5 years old.
Even before you got into organized sports, did I know you and Chris and Drew, did you guys ever play sports and shit around the neighborhood?
So before my parents divorced, there wasn't any neighborhood. We lived on Chimney Rock Road, which for the listeners is this mountainous, winding road in New Jersey that
you're not going to get on the bike and go to your friend's house.
Yeah, it didn't exist. So
not too many kids playing in that street.
That was when I was doing. I did the 1 year of T-ball. My parents divorced a couple years later, and that was when we moved over where we all met, over in the Vanderhaven and the condos and stuff. So that was where the sports kind of came in. And it was just all the kids in the neighborhood. We'd play football in the empty lot at the end of the street, waiting for the bus. We'd play touch football in the parking lot. You jump off the bus and go play street hockey. So that was where kind of the introduction to sports came in. The biggest thing that got me into lacrosse, which at that time was very, very unknown, was...
There's just a bunch of fairies running around in a field of
don't George Carlin me.
Well, I can't use his choice of words.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to do that at some point in this.
You had to expect it.
Twin brothers that lived 2 houses from my grandparents had been playing, and I had seen them outside because every Tuesday night when we were with my dad, we would go to my grandparents' house for dinner, and I had seen them playing, just throwing the ball in the front yard, and I wanted to know what it was. So they kind of...
It's called catch.
Yeah. Well,
Jeff tried to convince him to play pull a bamboo.
No, that was my grandfather.
Well, that's what you were at your
paid a quarter.
House.
You got paid a quarter for pulling bamboo.
He tried to rope me in with that. He wrote me into that one time.
My grandfather could have... He should have been a salesman, I think.
Yeah.
He knew how to talk.
I went over there to hang out with Drew one time.
Yes.
And we were just hanging out in the house, and somehow ended up moving pool stuff around.
He was very, very he would just subtly talk you into doing stuff for him.
Mister, I'm 10. My bones aren't developed yet.
Hey, while you're at it.
Yeah.
But that was actually... So that just popped in my head as you talked about that. Something else that kind of was about the sports was my grandfather would take us after we would play dinner. He had bought wiffle ball stuff, and we would eat dinner on Tuesday in the summer, and he would pitch to us, and we would hit and just take turns, rotating in the outfield and hitting and whatever, and he would just run around the backyard with us. So that was a little bit of our first introduction into it. Was just the kids in the neighborhood and my grandfather doing stuff like that. My dad would come out a little bit and play with us as well. So it was just kind of local stuff, and stumbled into something that I fell in love with in lacrosse.
No, I know, like I said, with my house, my stepdad always watched sports, always baseball and football on. Basketball, not so much. Hockey, not so much. I kind of liked hockey from school. I think, remember Josh DeLucchi?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, when we were friends, he told me he liked the Devils, and I'm just like, yeah, well, I like the Devils too. Never having, watched a hockey game.
I remember being at your house watching a playoff series, Devils Rangers
yeah,
with you.
That was
you're screaming at the television. I couldn't believe it. I said, I'm thinking to myself, earlier today he's telling me about this movie, The Matrix. I still don't understand the 2 pills.
Wow,
that late? And now he's screaming about Scott Stevens knocking the shit out of someone. I was so impressed.
That was the only sport. That was the only time and the only sport I ever gave a shit about. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe boxing now, but it was weird because the whole family was into it then. But then, My dad would take me to baseball games and football games. I just couldn't care less, man.
And I think that's
It's
a
weird.
great thing. It wasn't your thing, you know? And one of the things that I always like appreciate about our friendship is that sports were very much part of my life. They weren't so much as yours. Martial arts was a big part of both our lives.
Yeah.
But you got me interested in things that I never thought like Dragon Ball Z. I never thought I would have been interested in Dragon Ball Z. And then I started hanging out with Steve.
Yeah.
Lost. The show Lost. I'm hanging out with Steve one day. He's like, "You ever seen this show?" I'm like, "Nah." You know, it's like noon.
Well, I think that's where all of us have always, and
Yeah.
this was something I was saying to Steve.
We have these weird overlaps.
We have a lot of overlaps, but we've
Yeah.
always just had like very good conversation. And in that conversation, we just find like new interests. It's like, oh, wait, this is kind of fun. Like,
Yeah.
let me check that out.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I talk about a lot nowadays is when you make friends at a young age, you know, you're not even developed fully as a person. Like, you don't even know who you are yet.
Right.
So you have these friends, then, you know, they're your whole life. And then you start getting older and you realize, like, certain people just kind of drift away. You know what I mean?
And it sucks.
It does. But a lot of
sucks.
times it makes you wonder, like, there's certain people that are still around. And sometimes you look, it's like, wow, we really don't even have anything in common. It's like just shared history, really.
Yeah.
Because if you think, like, I have friends where I don't, you know, they're not into the same shit as me. Like, look at Louis. Louis is one of my closest friends. A guy hasn't, you know, can't quote a movie to save his life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things for me. But we're still friends because we've just been friends for a while.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Will, who has been on here, you guys have heard Will H.
Will,
He's been
episode
on here.
8.
Episode 8, there you go. Has been my best friend since we were 9 years old, and you were at the wedding. I did his best man speech, and I told everyone who didn't know, like, I met Will because he threw a skateboard at me when I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow. By the way, Rob, this guy fucking knocked that best man speech out of the park.
Really?
Honest to God. Like, I was genuinely impressed.
Yeah?
Shooting off the hip, too. Bam, bam.
Really? You ad-libbed.
I never write anything down. This is like
God.
having notes sitting here right now, just in case I want to talk about something, is kind of interesting to me. But I never write anything down.
Best man speeches are interesting. A guy I work with, I'm not going to mention his name, but he started his speech off by saying, my brother said that if I did a good job with my best man speech at this wedding, I could be the best man at his next wedding.
Not a way to start it.
His brother got divorced like a month later.
I'm sure that was cited in the legal filings.
But apparently, like the speech though itself, epic.
Oh,
Epic.
boy.
It's always you get them laughing, you get them crying.
Yeah.
Meet them in the middle.
All right, so
Tangent.
it happens.
sorry.
What are you gonna do? So, I know I played t-ball when I was in like first and second grade, I think, and then I switched to
You
soccer.
were playing t-ball in second grade?
maybe first grade. I know first grade. I don't remember how long
It's
I played.
like kindergarten first, usually,
Okay, so
something in
it's
that
first,
area.
because
Yeah.
I remember
Did your parents like sign you up and fake your age so that you're still playing t-ball?
I am 4. I am 12. But I know I moved from. I don't know the fucking ages, man.
You're like the
you
reverse
think I am?
Danny Almonte. Like,
What do you think? This is the Parks and Rec department? Anyway,
if it is, there's bacon hidden everywhere. Ron Swanson.
I don't much care for ethnic food. Anyway, so I started off with t-ball and I moved to soccer like I think most kids do. What about you guys?
I never played soccer.
Never?
I did t-ball 1 year. Wasn't really my thing. Like I said, I mean, I'm not sure my dad ever really played any. I'm sure he did at some point, but like sports was always on. He was a big Yankee fan.
Mm-hmm.
He's a diehard Cowboys fan. So sports was always kind of on, and then dad is also big in the NASCAR. So he likes to watch people driving left turns all day.
Man, you really like Tide.
Hey, man, can I stick my feet out?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Say, man, can I turn on the radio?
But yeah, so there was always kind of sports on. It just wasn't like something that we did constantly. It was kind of like a once a week little thing here and there.
For anybody listening, I just spilled wine on the laptop.
Yeah, that was my hesitation.
Yeah, nah, it's cool. It's cool.
But yeah, it was when I stumbled into lacrosse. Was I kind of met a group of people that, one, like I said, the guys who lived just up the street from my grandparents that introduced me to it, and it was so different and just very, very interesting to me. It combined, because I had been playing street hockey a little bit. It was a little bit of football. I never played soccer, but it was a little bit of everything. It was really interesting. And then, I mean, I was a little bit of an aggressive kid to a point.
How aggressive are we talking?
Not like
No means no, Jeff.
not like that.
Maybe we should have a conversation about rape culture, Jeff.
Look, that's a different episode, Steve. I think you already did that one.
If I could just say this, you came up in your adolescence with talking about when you're getting lacrosse. You came up when it was really actually starting to gain some traction and get popular, and now it's huge.
Slightly.
I think it's definitely our generation was the generation that made lacrosse take off.
Especially in Bridgewater.
So it was our town. Bridgewater had a history and a culture already. But if you look at, so being a coach in it now, like my big rivalries were Mountain Lakes, Montclair, Del Barton, Hunter and Central. It was like 4 teams, maybe 5. I might be missing one somewhere that I'm not thinking about right now. But
it's insane what
there
Mountain
was
Lakes
4
can put out.
Yeah, there's
a
like
Group 1 school, and it's an elite program every year.
Yeah,
there's money in that town.
Yeah, well, all they do in Mountain Lakes is hockey and lacrosse.
Mm.
That's all they have. It's the 2 money sports. But at the end of the day, like it wasn't what it is now, to the point that almost every school, and we'll delve into this, I think, a little more when we get into like what we're doing coaching now. But I took my first varsity position this year with a private school that has only had a program for a couple of years, and it's in a nice building process, but it's nowhere near where I played with when I was in high school. They were in their 20th season when I want to say when I was, we just did our 40th year. Mm-hmm. Coach has 500 wins. It's an established program with an established feeder program. So there's a lot of stuff that has gone into that now, yes, lacrosse is blowing up. Shout out to the Premier Lacrosse League, killing it this year on NBC.
Well, before we get into all that, let's keep going. How did you start? What did you start playing?
So, we were a baseball and softball family. Mm-hmm. Frankie and I, we both played baseball. Frankie was a very, very good pitcher.
He played in high school too.
Frankie did.
Yeah.
Frankie played in high school. Frankie would have made a tremendous football player. From what I understand, his coach didn't want him to get into it, just because there's always that the coach doesn't want you to get involved in the other sport, because then maybe you get injured or something like that. I'm a very big fan of play as many sports as you want. Mm-hmm. Just, it's great for your body. It's great for your experience. You learn so much through it. My sister, you know her. She was a softball player, field hockey player. My thing was, I played baseball. I didn't like baseball.
Why?
It was too boring.
It's too
I
slow.
was standing around too much, and I love watching baseball. Mm-hmm. But for me, I wanted to play football. But when we were kids growing up, I wasn't allowed to play football. I was literally too big.
See, I wasn't allowed to play football because Mom thought I was going to get hurt.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to play. I didn't get to play football until I was in high school.
They said you were too big?
This was when there was just Pop Warner, because now there's Pop Warner and there's BFL. There were height and weight limitations. And I was a big kid. But so now, I don't want to, I'm not sure if they do. They might. But depending on your size, like they might let you play up a year.
They do.
Or down. Yeah.
I have a couple of kids on my team that do.
Yeah. I was never allowed that. So I didn't get to play football until I was in high school. So that's how, when I stopped doing baseball, because I didn't want to do it. I had no interest in it.
So why did you keep going?
Frankie and I played baseball every day. That was our big thing, because we had that big backyard. We had that big back, and we used to smack the shit out of the baseballs. We used to do home run derby, everything like that. But then we were also playing football and running pass routes, and I loved it. We had so much fun, burnt off all that energy. But there was nothing else for me to do, and I was getting so frustrated with it. That's when I really started to look into martial arts. Mm-hmm. And, long story short, that led me down the path of where I am today in my profession. And, when I finally did get into football, I didn't know shit. I was just a big kid that wanted to knock people around. I didn't understand the strategy of it. And this is playing like Madden and everything like that, and talking with my brother Frankie, who, to me, I'm talking about my brother a lot, but he's very, very smart when it comes to the game.
We love Frankie on this podcast.
We all love him. We love Frankie.
We love Frankie.
We do.
He's very, very smart when it comes to the game. When I got involved as a player, I did not know jack squat.
For the record, too, any of the listeners out there, Rob is a big motherfucking guy. Like I'm not tall by any stretch of the word, unless I'm in Miami with my Cuban family.
Your family.
Then I'm like a Viking giant. But up here, I'm the short Italian kid.
Well, everyone thinks this is fun. It's not fun being this big or this tall. It's hard to find pants. It's hard to be comfortable in cars, movie theaters. There's a lot that goes. I bump my head into everything, and what's the one thing people always ask me to do? Hey, Rob, can you come here? No, they want me to reach for this or grab that.
Yep.
It's not fun.
I feel your pain now, buddy.
It's great. I got to go on all the rides a lot sooner than everyone else, but it's really the only benefit.
Yeah. I mean, I had kind of the same thing because my mom wouldn't let me.
Jeff is tall as well, so I'm, I don't know how much I like having these two here as my guests.
Yeah, my mom wouldn't let me play football, and I wanted to play hockey more than anything. I had so much fun playing street hockey. Like I had the paper route when I was 10, and I would literally jump off the bus, throw my rollerblades on. For anyone out there under the age of like 20, rollerblades are inline skates.
You did a paper route on rollerblades?
Yes, I did.
You're like Super Nintendo version of Paperboy.
I was. I was.
Speaking of hockey, though, Rob left me at a hockey game one time at the Bridgewater Sports Arena.
We're not going to talk about that.
We are going to talk about that. No. We are going to talk about
that. Listen. It was totally
if we're going to talk about how I had to go get soaked in the rain at some point, we're going to talk about how Steve got left at a hockey game.
Sorry, his brother left me at a party one time for the same reason.
But I didn't leave you.
I thought you left me.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
What were you doing in the ball pit, Rob?
Yeah.
I wasn't in the ball pit.
She was. Well-placed pun. Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, yeah, I always wanted to play hockey, and like hockey was just way too expensive. I mean, you're talking gear.
I did too as a kid. $750 for brand new
a lot of gear.
Yeah.
Certain things are just like very expensive to get into.
Well, that's it. I mean,
play a hockey player, a drummer, any of those things.
We all come from middle class. Both parents work kind of thing, and it just wasn't feasible. I mean, a season alone was $500-600 just to play, not to mention the gear. Lacrosse, like we went to. I loved it. I'm like, Mom, I want to play. So we went to play it against Sports. And bought just a bunch of used gear.
Played against Sports for any of you young bucks out there. It was a place where you could buy used sports gear.
Raise your hand if you actually bought stuff from there.
I didn't play. What the fuck? Get some hand-me-down shin guards.
2 out of 3, folks.
For a soccer team that lost every game? I don't think so.
Daddy, why does this smell like grapes?
So yeah, a bunch of used gear from there, and that was how I started. I actually remember my first season because they wanted shoulder pads, and we couldn't find shoulder pads. I borrowed from John that lived downstairs from me. No last names, obviously. So John C.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about.
Downstairs from me. Borrowed a pair of ice hockey shoulder pads that he had, and
you're not trashing the guy. You could say his name on here. It doesn't matter at this point, but I'm just saying.
Well, we have a tendency to go full circle with all of our friends.
Touche. Fair enough.
No, I actually don't have anything bad to say about John.
We might have something bad later on, so.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
But I borrowed a pair of ice hockey shoulder pads from him, and I didn't even have a jersey. I put them under one of my father's work shirts.
Jesus.
Like pull over, because Big Jeff is a larger gentleman. He has like a double XL work shirt at the time, so I pulled a double XL t-shirt over these hockey shoulder pads and used those.
He's a big guy when you're a kid, but as a grown-up, he's...
Well, yeah, now he's, average.
He'll still kick our ass. No. You get him in the zone. And...
If he gets to the gun safe first, then yeah.
Your dad looks like he knows the trick to carrying a dead body, okay? So...
Look. Big Jeff is not to be fucked with.
Let's just say,
he gives me dead deer meat. I love it.
He doesn't look like he doesn't have lime at the house.
There you go.
There are plenty of shovels hanging on the garage wall. What they're used for, I don't know.
I could swear.
I'm just happy he likes us.
I could swear I helped carry half of those in the house when he bought that house.
Oh yeah,
I know.
Along with the gun safe.
Me and George helped carrying that gun safe.
That thing was insane.
Shout out to George T. Episode
George T.
6. Either way,
that was a good episode.
George is a cool guy.
Yeah.
His son's getting baptized soon.
Nice.
We're not going to shout out Drew because he doesn't listen.
Yeah, Drew, he won't hear it. Allison listens.
Allison listens.
Oh, you mean Andy?
Shout out to Allison.
We're not going to
shout out to Allison.
To Andy.
Listen.
Andy.
To Andy Kerner.
Andy.
If he hears that, he's going to fucking Rob.
So listeners.
Allison's going to play. It's like, you got to hear what they said about you.
So for the listeners that are out there that have heard a bunch of episodes, Drew, who is the most frequent guest, I think, maybe
him and AJ are the two most frequent.
Yeah, I was gonna say your wife might be up there as well.
Betty,
Shout out to Betty
she's up
for letting us do this.
You could shout her out. She's in the other room.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Betty.
Has been on here more than anything, and Steve called him out last week because he doesn't listen, and I gave him shit about it yesterday. So,
In all fairness, this, podcasts are not necessarily conducive to everyone's lifestyle and workday.
no, that's
Like,
it.
for me,
he's
obviously-
in a tree all day. You can't exactly be
Yeah.
cutting stuff apart, listening to podcasts.
Kind of has to have his wits about him.
That's what we got to do tomorrow.
I lucked out this week. I have an easy job at work. I'm not around anybody. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just going inside like apartments and just wiring up.
No, he pulled me in to do a tree job tomorrow because he needs help.
I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about me.
Yeah,
Talking
well,
to you. But isn't that great? You go in, there's no distractions. You do what you got to do.
Honestly, like that's me. For me at work, all I do is listen to podcasts. So
Yeah.
I just finished. I was getting audiobooks. I just finished
So-
The Shining on Friday.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So what you're saying is you're looking forward to and you enjoy work when there's no distractions.
Yes. I don't have to
That
deal
is the
with other
exact
people.
Opposite of coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
So
is the
let's
exact
Let's
opposite.
get right back into that. Go, Rob.
all right. So let's fast forward here. So you guys both played sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where does the coaching begin? How does this happen? What's the genesis of this whole thing? Pick. I
So-
don't know. Who the fuck wants to talk first? Jeffo.
So I always kind of did a little bit.
And back to you, Jeff.
I always kind of did a little bit through like high school and college. You coach the camps during the summer and the off season for like pocket money and stuff. And my freshman year of college, I went back and I helped with our freshman high school team.
Salud, boys. I'll try not to spill this one.
Salud.
Cheers.
After I got done with college, because 4 years at D1, it's a killer. Like it's like having 2 full-time jobs.
And you were there. You were in the culture. You were the front row. I mean,
Yeah.
Rutgers is
Yeah.
it's not Bush League.
Go Knights. Are you rah rah? So it like after the 4 years there, I kind of just like had to get away. I didn't really play much. I did the alumni game. We have a charity alumni game for Bridgewater every year, and that was really all I did for a while.
It was burnout.
It was a I don't want to call it a burnout. It was just kind of like I needed a break.
Okay.
Because I
totally get it.
started at 7-8, so I'm 37 now. I've been playing for 30 years.
Pick this up a little bit. Not closer. Up. Just up. There you go.
So I'm coming on 30 years playing now. And after working through high school and getting into college and doing the recruiting and the day in and day out workouts and the traveling and 4 years of it's 30 to 40 hours a week at a D1 level. So
Selfie.
I kind of needed a little bit of a break, and that was just really, it wasn't a burnout. It was just kind of like, I don't want to hate this because I love the game so much.
I'm glad you said it like that.
So coaching was a break.
No, just in general, I took a break.
Okay. For how long?
It's two different beasts. It's two
Yeah,
very different
very
beasts.
different beasts.
Okay.
So I just took a break, and I would play our alumni game, and I went to a charity event that we do for our youth program, which happened to be a wine tasting, which is funny with all the bottles of wine we got sitting here right now.
Hey man, lubes the conversation.
It does. And the director for Bridgewater Youth Lacrosse was my coach my first couple years playing. So about a bottle and a half into the fundraiser, he's like, Jeff, you want to come back and coach? I need some help. And of course, me being a bottle and a half in, I'm like,
That's how they suck you in.
Yeah, let's go. I'm down.
Wait till you're intoxicated and weak and you can't say no.
But it actually worked out really well because I think I had been away enough that I wanted to get back into it more. I had actually been doing a lot of, we mentioned martial arts a couple times, a lot of jiu-jitsu and MMA for a while, which was my break. So I wasn't doing nothing. I was just doing something different. And that brought me back to this again, that, with lacrosse, that I kind of found my passion and my love for it again with being able to coach and teach it a little more. And that was like the best part. So my first year I had a little bit of a rough team, and that was what he gave it to me. He's like, I need somebody who can kind of handle this. They were 8th grade at that point going into high school. And it was a lot of like challenging players, parents. It was a really weird dynamic to come into for my first year.
They're the worst. I'm going to say right now, the parents are the worst.
Oh, we're definitely
We're going to get into that at some
The
point.
parents are the absolute worst.
All right, so we're here. You're coaching now.
The other issue
They got you drunk.
They got me drunk. They got me coaching.
Roped you into it.
Wrote me into it. But the other issue with that
That's how
year
they got
was
Belichick.
I was supposed to be the assistant.
Apparently, that's how they got Kraft too.
Yeah. I was supposed to be the assistant coach that year. And the guy who was the head coach, Mark, who's now like my co-head coach on our current team, who I get along with great, he had a minor heart attack like 3 weeks into the season. So I default into head coach, and I know like one kid's name.
Oh boy.
Oh, this is going to be fun. So that was a rough year. It was really cool though. Those kids just graduated last week, and I was at their senior night game to see that, the handful of them that were left still playing, and just be able to say like that was my first team.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
You see how they've grown, that whole transformation, that whole transition.
Yeah.
It's great to see like the growth of a kid.
Yeah.
See how they blossom, so to speak.
But I didn't have as much time with them as I do with my team now. So after that team left, he wanted me to stay on, and I've started doing like more of the scheduling and refs and things like that, and get more into the admin side of it as well. And my current team, what I said to our director was,
All right, we're gonna get into that for a
oh,
second.
we're going to get into that.
All
Okay.
right. Rob, what about you? How did you start?
So,
It was a little different. You're a teacher
I am.
by profession.
I educate America.
This guy's an educator.
I mold young minds.
It's frightening.
Oh shit.
Well, and that's kind of the one of the ways you get into it. It's I want to say a smoother transition to get in that coaching role when you're working in that public education field, because as I'm sure you remember, plenty of your teachers were coaches. When I graduated college, I didn't get to play football in college. I loved playing football in high school. I loved it. I was proud to be the captain of our high school. I was proud to represent it. I was proud of the fact that, when we were sophomores, when we first came up, we were horrible.
Well, I remember our team not being good until senior year.
Not being good is a compliment. I mean, we were losing games 56-0 at halftime.
Yeah,
it's
you
bad.
guys were a few years behind me, and I remember it being really bad.
It's rough, because I remember, and I remember sitting there as a sophomore, and you're looking around, and you're like, there's like, wait a minute, all us, and I wasn't even a starter, but like, it's like all of us young kids, like, we're gonna be the ones out in the field, and these dudes are like, they've got beards, like they're huge, like we're gonna get our ass kicked, and that's exactly what happened to us for 2 years. So when it came time that we finally were seniors, and we had that experience, we came out, we got all the way up to rank 12th in the state. We were kicking ass. It was great. And then I got hurt my last game. I was set to play ball in college. Got hurt on a Friday night, last game, minute and 27 seconds left. Big motherfucker, Joe, I'm not going to say his last name, from Watchung, fell on the back of my leg, and you point your toe? Mm-hmm. Well, imagine that, but then he fell on the back of my leg, and my whole foot went snap.
Ew.
So when I sat up, I'm looking at my feet like this, except the way my legs are, and this foot is over here.
Oh boy,
that wasn't good. Well, you remember I was walking around. I walked around senior year of high school with a cane for 3 months.
I do remember that.
I smacked him in the knuckles a couple times.
Yeah, I know. I probably deserved it.
Son of a bitch. But
I've had a few Chardonnays. What of it?
Come on, miss.
What are you going to do about it?
Bring it on, woman.
The goddamn Jets.
Yeah, the goddamn Jets. But for me, what got me into coaching was it sounds so silly and corny. Unfinished business.
Really?
It was unfinished business. I felt like there was more I had to give. There was more I had to do. And I wanted to be part of the game. I need to be a part. It's kind of like, Rocky Balboa. In Rocky 2, he's got, he's going through the medical issues, and he says to Mick, he's like, I got to be around it. So I graduated, and I got hired, and I wanted to, solidify my future first. So I wanted to make some plans and put things in action. So I went back to school. I got my master's degree, and I said, once I get my master's degree, I'm going to go back to coaching. Mm-hmm. And because by now I know the game.
Yeah.
You know, all those things that I didn't know and I've gotten more into, and I've studied the game and I start to notice patterns and everything. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, I'm sure. But I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to help out. And my mother, I don't know if you remember, had a store in Somerville. And Somerville was always like, Somerville was a football town. It was a sports tradition town. Like, that was a town where everyone, the community, everyone was a part of it.
Well, it's such a small, like, compact town.
Yeah.
It just feels like it has the small town feel, but it almost has like that small city feel too.
Yeah.
It's small, but not too small.
I remember growing up, my mother's store is where I think it's Kumo is now. It used to be Say with
Asian,
Baskets, right next to that little alley. And next to that was West Coast Video.
I remember.
So I used to run next door and watch movies.
I remember where that the apartment complex is now. That building where the Playa Bowls and Starbucks and everything.
Great.
Is. There used to be Palmer Video.
Yep.
Remember that?
Palmer
House
Video.
of Wong,
Well,
the Chinese
House of Wong.
restaurant.
At the far end was Hollywood Video.
Hollywood Video.
Right on the
That's
corner.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. But West Coast Video gave me one of the greatest experiences of my life when I walked into the room that you're not supposed to go in when you're not a certain age. And I said, why is that guy's pee-pee in her mouth?
And why is my pee-pee suddenly straight?
So, but I always wanted to be a part of it. And so I reached out to my friend. My friend reached out to the head coach. I went and met the head coach, and he took a chance on me and said, hey, I want to bring you in, and I want you to work with our freshmen. And I was ecstatic, and I dove in head first. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing about this, I'll say this: anyone who says they get into coaching for the money is full of shit.
Absolutely.
Because there is no money.
None.
There is no money.
Unless you're like Ditka. I mean, it's
No,
not happening.
it's
If you get to
it's
the
brutal.
college
There's
pro level, but at the
even as
high
a head
school-
coach or a coordinator,
Yeah.
it's the first piece of advice I ever got was don't ever do the math and break down how much you got paid per hour. My first year coaching,
You'll just resent yourself.
my first year coaching, and you're going from May workouts all the way to the end of November. If you're good, you're going into December. My first season coaching, I was coaching freshmen, and again, I dove in head first. So I wanted to help out everyone because I wanted to learn. You know, and Jeff will tell you, like I'm always plucking his brain, even when I was doing my thing, and I would have him go out and scout for me.
Yeah.
Jeff is a big reason I was successful as a coach.
As much as I never played football, I get the game very well.
He does. I can't thank Jeff enough for what he did to help me get to where I got.
We would literally, I'd bring film on Sunday
Yeah.
before the Raider game started.
Well, I was holding one.
For everyone out there, we live in New Jersey. Rob and I are Raider fans.
Curse.
Well,
It's a curse.
Rob and Frankie always had weird favorite teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go Saskatchewan. Let's go Rough Riders.
But I
Well,
would,
you guys are the biggest Michigan fans of anybody I've ever met in my life.
As everyone should be.
Wow.
I would bring film over on Sunday, and we'd start at
Jeff was my scout. I used to pay Jeff to go
9:30 in
scout.
the morning.
Yeah.
Breaking film down, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I saw this, I saw that, I saw this, I saw this, and we'd go through film.
Yeah.
And then we'd crack beers and start watching the Raider
Right.
game.
But like my first year coaching, I made $70.
The whole year.
That's it. I got a gift card at the end of the year.
That's pretty
$70.
good, man.
And I'm racking it in. But so much of it is when I dove in head first, and that's how you get good. I embraced the whole what you call like the varsity culture. So I had Jeff go out scouting freshman football games. So Jeff is going with an iPad and he's filming, and then I'm breaking it down, and I'm talking. you're looking at everything: down, distance, possession. You're looking at field advantage. You're looking at hash mark. You're looking at formations, alignments. You're looking at every little thing, and you watch it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you start to see patterns and everything like that. And it's kind of like a sickness.
Jesus Christ.
Wasn't there the one Summit game? I texted you from the stands while I was there and was like, watch, they're going to switch to this different
Yep.
wing next time. They're going to shift the tackle.
Yep. It was rough. That's how I got into it. It took off far from there. But it was interesting how it happened. I didn't expect it to happen the way it did.
Let me ask you guys this. What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned as far as making the transition from a player to a coach? Like, what's the biggest thing that's kind of been opened up to you that you've noticed, like that that changed your perspective?
You're absolutely right. It's a wonderful question.
Thank you.
Every player is different, and every player isn't you. You can't look at every kid and think that they are you, because what you have to remember is there are kids who are out there who are just out there for their college application. There are kids who are out there because they love the game. There are kids who are out there because they want to be with their friends. There are kids who are out there because they're interested. There are kids who are out there because their father is pushing them into something they don't want to do.
Ooh, don't get started on that one.
It's you need to quickly learn how to talk to each individual kid. Because the way I'm going to coach one kid is not the way I'm going to coach another kid. And I see it all the time. I see it all the time. You see these hotheads come in, F this, F that, and they're screaming in kids' faces like they're Bud Kilmer from Varsity Blues. And guess what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I mean, you guys are adults. When you're around someone all the time who's in your face screaming, spitting, and, cursing and everything like that, you become numb to it because it doesn't have any effect.
I feel like that seems like a very common sense, logical approach to dealing with people in general.
Anything.
And it seems like that's not that common. Well, a lot of people just, have that hammer nail mentality. I'm a hammer, that's a nail, hammer, and that's all we do.
It goes along with what what you talk about a lot in your episodes about masculinity, I think. Where, I'm the big football coach, I'm angry, I got to be spitting and da-da-da-da. Dick Vermeil won Super Bowls. Dick Vermeil went to Super Bowls. He won plenty of football games. He beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl when he was the head coach of UCLA. Dick Vermeil used to cry all the time in front of his players. He used to embrace them, tell them he loved them, everything like that. That works for some players. It doesn't work for others. Getting in the face of another player, that works for some. It doesn't work for others. You need to be able to find that balance. You need to be able to adapt. If you cannot adapt, because you doing that shows the kids you care.
Yeah.
They need to know you care, because especially at the high school level, kids are smart. If they're not babies anymore. If they think you don't care, they are going to turn right off. Why am I going to work hard for you, Coach?
I think you really hit it on the head. It's adaptability. Anytime you're in any kind of leadership position, you need to be able to adapt to the people that are supposed to be following you. Right. So if you just have one approach, it's only going to work for a certain amount of people. And if your goal is to get everybody on the same page, you're going to have to tailor it to each individual.
Well, the best coaches, I think, are the people that can relate across the board to anyone. So, like, if we want to talk still stay in the sports realm, like, as much as Rob and I can't stand the Patriots, Bill Belichick is probably one of the best coaches to ever step foot on a football field. Yeah. He can take players that are looked at as, like, mid-level and continues to win Super Bowls with them.
Just do your job.
That's it. Like,
your job.
He has a system if you work within his system. And I think that can relate across the board to anything. Like, any place I've been, I ran car dealerships. I've taught classes in financial planning. I've run teams in many jobs. I will never ask anyone to do something I can't do myself. Or if I can't actually do it, I've researched it to the point that I can say, all right, I've really never done this, but this is what I think. What do you think? And, like, especially as an adult, like, having those conversations, those interactions, which I'm sure you deal with, union stuff and whatever. There's guys who have been there longer than you and things like that.
Everybody's different. You can't, have the same approach for everyone.
But like you said, it's the hammer and the nail sometimes. Like, some guys just, especially like a little bit of that older generation, just always want to be like, no, this is it. This is how it has to be.
And if you can't do it, then you don't have any place on this team.
And what you also have to remember is when you're coaching, you're not just coaching individual kids. You're coaching the entire team as a whole. So one of the best decisions I ever made to motivate my team, we're having a very successful season. We came off a win over a quality opponent, but we played down to them. So we won the game 14-7. We easily could have won the game 35-7, 35-14. But the kids had gotten so set in their ways of, if we just show up, you know what I mean? Like, you start to get complacent.
They're doing the bare minimum.
Right. And I had sent Jeff out. Jeff went and scouted a game for us for our next two opponents. And they were both very, very good teams. And Jeff calls me up and tells me about it. And this is right after the game. And I'm seething on the phone. Seething. And Jeff is like talking me off a cliff. So I said to Jeff, I said, listen, I want you to call me back. Leave me a voicemail. And I want you to say, hey, Coach, you need to get your boys ready. Because these next two games, these kids aren't screwing around. They're very, very sound in their technique. They're very, very effective in what they do. Remember this? Mm-hmm. Jeff did his part to a key because Jeff's a coach. So I got all the boys in the locker room, and they're all laughing and cheering. And I said, sit down. And it's one of those things like when you have that look on your face.
I literally had him on the sideline. Like
they could see when you mean business.
Exactly. It's like when you messed up and your parents were like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And you're like, oh, God, it hurts so much more.
It's that intuition. I think, once you reach a certain age, you can read it on people's faces.
Right.
Especially when it's someone you've been around a lot.
Exactly. So I said, I want all of you to shut your mouths. And I just hit play. And I put it on speaker. And it was Coach Kerner, as we called him, it was Jeff. And, hey, coach, you better get your boys ready because these guys mean business. They're well coached. They got good numbers, good thing, this, that, da, 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 da. And their faces were like, pew. Like all of a sudden
reality.
And I just said, I'll see you at practice on Monday. We won the next 2 games against them. We knocked the crap out of them.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to find the way to motivate them individually and as a group.
That's got to be tricky.
I think some of the, and maybe it's just for me, like so I was pointing at Rob a minute ago because I wanted to step in on something like this. Is I think a lot of the culture too, and like a lot of what sports should do is build kids up. It's prepare them for stuff, get them ready. Like there's nothing that can prepare you worse, or I should say, that can make you feel worse and prepare you better than losing a game. Like you've worked your butt off and you've like. Failure prepares you for life. You put so much effort into it, and it just gets you ready.
Yeah.
And my team this year, we played a local team in a tournament and blew them out. They came to play us about a week or 2 later. Same team, and a bunch of their kids were like away or something. They showed up with 1 sub. Now, for anyone who doesn't know lacrosse, there's 10 players on the field at any time. You're running a 110-yard field. They had 1 kid to sub in and out. My team has 28 players on it.
Jesus Christ.
We were up 6-0 at halftime.
Wimps. Come on, put some
because I
effort into
pulled
it, Coach.
the reins a little bit. I'm like, look, you're not gonna embarrass these guys.
Good.
We ended up winning 9-8. That team fought their way back through, and I told my kids, I'm like, hey, they're fighting. Go out and fight.
Was part of you rooting for him?
A little bit.
Everybody loves an underdog.
Well, so unlike I think football, where like
these kids got hot.
Well, like you're a Michigan fan. Like if you run into an Ohio State fan, you're just gonna like it's a butting of heads.
Volatile mixture.
Yeah, it's like if somebody.
I just want to throw sharp things at you.
If somebody played for Michigan and somebody who played for Ohio State, like it's a like deep seated hatred. Lacrosse, I think, because it's just getting bigger. It's kind of a smaller community. We all have a lot of love for the game and for each other. On the field, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of I'm going to go at you, unless you're a real douchebag. Like I've had a couple of coaches, which if we want to delve into that, I'll get into those stories in a minute.
Well, that's actually the next thing I want to talk about.
Okay, we'll get into that in a second then.
Yeah.
But when I come across good groups of people, like I want to encourage them, especially at a youth level. We're talking 12-year-olds. So I have a 12-year-old team that had 1 sub and fought back to only lose by 1 goal when they were down by 6 at halftime.
That's incredible.
I was cleaning up, picking cones up and grabbing balls and getting all the stuff off the field. And their coach was talking to them on the bench, and they were like, kind of down and whatever. And I think they were obviously a little exhausted. And I walked over and I said, Coach, may I take a minute? Do you mind? He goes, no. I said, guys, not one of you has any reason to hang your heads. A lesser team would have folded up and walked off at halftime. Be proud of yourselves, because what you did today, I was like, they are going to get reamed at practice next week for giving up 8 goals in the second half. You guys fought back and carried yourselves with a ton of heart and character on top of that. Like even in losing, like they weren't chippy, they weren't chirping at anything, and shook everyone's hand, good game, good game, good game. And
what does that mean, chippy?
You
running
suck,
their mouth.
you suck.
Know,
yeah.
okay.
I got nicer cleats.
Yeah.
All that crap.
Your mother wears combat boots.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah, like just trying to get in your head like you're some whatever.
But I've always, congratulated coaches, players after the game or whatever. But that's the first time I've ever walked up to an entire bench and said, you guys earned, like, you actually won this game. If you really want to really put it in perspective, you won this game. You went up against 28 guys with 1 sub and lost by a goal. don't ever forget that.
And it's stuff like that that lives with them forever.
Yeah. And their coach was like, nobody's ever done that. I said, like, I love this game. This is my game. So I'm going to give credit where it's due.
Let me ask you, all right, so we mentioned other coaches, and what are the, how should I say this? Who are some of the worst offenders when it comes to people other than the players, like the parents, other coaches? Do you notice a lot of people who just don't know how to fucking act? People who just
Absolutely.
wear their emotions on their sleeve, who
Absolutely.
can't control themselves.
Yeah,
It's a kid's
absolutely.
sports
We
game.
have-
Sit down, ma'am.
Absolutely.
We have 3 teams blacklisted that can't play against us.
Really?
Yeah. Because their coaches, and it's what I get is it's generally the parents who try to live vicariously through their kid on the team.
Absolutely.
They're so over the top. And then when they're winning, they're like, oh, we got to run. Like we had one kid, I won't mention the program, but we had one team. It was a 4th grade game. And they were up 23-0 on our 4th grade team. And
This is lacrosse.
this is lacrosse.
23-0.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
And our
Pew
coach,
pew.
our coach was like, it's 4th grade. Like, it's a lot of brand new kids. Not everyone can catch and throw. And
Mommy, look, I've got a lacrosse stick.
Yeah.
All right, watch the ball, son.
but
Mommy, look, I got a butterfly.
that's it. Some kid's like running off to chase a squirrel
that's
or
fine.
something.
Yeah, and they're having fun.
And our coach at the time walked over to their coach and said, like, Coach, and what's going on? Like, can you like chill a little bit? And he goes, I've got 4 kids that haven't scored yet.
Was it John Rambo as coach? Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Like, so they are not allowed to play us. We had another team this year who came in, like, to the point that the refs called our director and was like, this guy is just an asshole. We are never dealing with him again. So that team is black. And then they ended up bringing older kids to play down to beat up on my team because God forbid you lose to Bridgewater.
Well, I mean, and it's interesting, especially now, and this is what disgusts me because, you do, when you're at the high school level, you do stuff with the youth programs. And the parents are obviously a part of it, and you hear the parents and everything like that. But you look at some of these youth coaches. I mean, these are the coaches that are getting the kids involved in the game. Well, Johnny's only playing because his buddy Timmy's playing or whatever. And it could be any sport. But, the coach is the dad who's acting like Bradley Cooper playing touch football and Wedding Crashers. He's like taping his knuckles because he's going to coach a game. It's
Nature versus nurture.
yeah, nature.
Big tree fall hard.
Big tree fall hard. And it's like, what is wrong with you?
If I had
This is supposed to be-
I'd scream at you right now.
It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun for the kids.
Your
son's not.
competitive sports wouldn't kill you once in a while.
Oh, would that make you love me? But it's really
Short-sighted.
sad to see
Well
it
put.
because you see these kids who are showing up to these sporting events to practice and the games, and they've got anxiety all over their faces.
Yeah, and I lucked out. So my first team that I mentioned, I had a couple of rough parents on that one, but I so lucked out with the team that I have now. I have the greatest group of parents I could ever ask for.
And the great ones are great.
Yeah.
They're not all terrible. The great ones are great.
And-
What do you define a great parent by?
They let you do your job.
They let me do my thing.
Oh, it's easy.
Um,
Some
they-
people are.
It sounds harder than it sounds.
Some parents are great just by default because they spend the whole time looking at their phone, not paying attention to the damn
so
kid.
I have a rule.
I've seen that. I've seen that.
I'm sure you have, but I'm saying there are those who like they are there at every practice and every game, but they still support you.
No, I have
Listen to your coach.
I have 3 dads that are assistant coaches. But I have, so one of my other things too is you are not allowed to speak to me for 24 hours after a game. You are not allowed to come to me immediately after the game. Why did my kid not get playing time? Why did this? Why did that?
Yep.
Why did this? It has to be 24 hours.
Yep.
Because you need to go home and think about what you want to say.
Yeah, cool off.
Cool off a little bit because you don't understand. And I actually had it this year. A couple of parents, and I'm only saying this because it wasn't a bad thing. We were up 15-2 on a team. So I took a bunch of my starters and just like, take your helmets off, just sit down. Like,
Right.
I'm going to let the kids who don't get a ton of time, some of the newer kids clean the game. It was the 4th quarter.
Can I take a guess what happened?
Well, no, a couple of dads were just like, not that they thought that I was benching them. They're like, what did they do? Because they know, like, if I do something like that, like, their kid must have screwed up.
It's
and I'm
called
like,
a good job, Dad.
He did too well.
I'm like, no, I'm just trying.
Go buy him an ice cream
We're,
cone.
we're trying to be like nice to the team that we're beating right now.
Yeah.
But they didn't like wrap their head around it in the moment. They just saw their kids go sit on the bench and take their helmets off.
Right.
Which as soon as I said, they're like, oh, okay. And I actually have a team mom who's kind of my mediator. She is fantastic. She is like my savior, because she'll hear people starting to say stuff like, oh, why isn't my kid getting some time or whatever? And she's like, trust me, he's doing it for a reason.
Yeah. I always noticed, like, when I had Tyler in soccer,
Yeah.
there was one kid who, wouldn't show up for the practices. Then
So
his
that was going to
parents-
be my question, was
his
does
parents-
Tyler play anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he played soccer.
Okay.
Like he wouldn't show up for the practices. Maybe once out of the whole season he would show up for practice. Then he would show up for the games. And clearly the kid was talented. Like he was out there. He could run fast. He can control the ball. He could score. But he just did whatever he wanted to. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we would end up losing the game. And he could see his mom's like, why do they have them do this? Why do they have them do that? Lady, you don't even take your kid to the practice. You don't know what the system is. Right. He's just out there doing whatever the fuck he wants to do. So why are you complaining? If you actually gave a shit, show up, be part of the team. He's not out there by himself,
And it's part of the whole community aspect of it. When you have these kids and you have these parents who are involved, it's a wonderful thing. It really is a wonderful, wonderful thing, because there are plenty of kids out there who have come to our practices, Jeff and I, that mom, dad, they never come to a practice or anything like that. But you have those parents who have those kids. Well, he's playing this, he's playing that, and that's fine. But the thing is this, the youth level, it's about fun. Okay? Now,
To a certain age.
to a certain age,
Yeah.
when you get into that middle school, high school
6th,
range,
7th, 8th grade.
Yeah. Well, why isn't Timmy playing more? Well, if I put Timmy in, Timmy's going to get himself hurt. And I'm just making this name up. Or Timmy didn't come to practice. Timmy needs to learn responsibility. Timmy needs to be a team player. And everyone has their role.
I feel like that, because Timmy didn't come to practice, it's almost like a proxy because you didn't bring your son to practice.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so here's my bigger thing.
Timmy's kind of a proxy for the parents.
As Rob said earlier, I'm all about play all the sports.
Do it. Do it.
Because there's a lot of things that can be incorporated from different sports across the board. I would rather, and for anyone listening out there who's trying to get their kid into like higher level varsity or college sports, coaches are looking more for multi-sport athletes at this stage. It's not somebody who specializes in one thing. So I would rather have them, like I tell my kids, play soccer in the fall, play basketball, wrestle, whatever you want to do something.
Rob and I wrestled.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, what you did
Steve's
in the
a tickler.
What you did in the backyard is beyond is
He's a tickler.
No,
Son of a bitch.
we were legit on the wrestling team.
We were.
You know what it is? Because we were obsessed with WCW at the time.
Yeah.
And everybody thought, oh, we'll just do that. And then that's
It was bad.
close enough.
It was bad. I'd cry after I lost.
It was me,
Bad.
you, Moose, and Rory.
Papke.
you tried to do
Rory.
like your
Rory's been on the show. Shout out to Rory.
Yeah, Rory.
Rory was here.
Rory-
you tried to do your own backyard thing.
All 65
No.
pounds
Like,
of them. We were on the wrestling team.
Oh, on the team.
Yeah. And guess
Yeah.
what? Me in a singlet, picture it.
No, I don't
I
want
look
to.
terrible even
Don't
then.
want to.
Who's this Italian guy with pale legs? Eh?
It's actually the one sport I wish I did now, doing jiu-jitsu. I wish I had done wrestling.
We tried so hard to get your brother to do it, and he wouldn't do it because he
Yeah.
was like, we were the
did.
wolf pack.
I was going to say, he was probably the ringleader.
He was the fifth part, and he wouldn't sign up.
We had a handshake and everything, but he wouldn't come out.
Anyway, sorry to cut you off.
No, it's fine. But yeah, like doing multiple sports, like do whatever you want. I feel like a lot of these, and this is where I was going to ask, like, did Tyler play anything? Because if you had any experience with it, I feel like soccer, at least in New Jersey right now, is the absolute worst. You are not allowed to do anything else. It's insanely expensive to play in the club team. Oh, it's like
in like a club. If you do like the in town,
no, just in
cheap,
town or whatever.
You
But
do in-town recreation, it's great, but what's happening is a lot of those recreation teams are actually being shut down because they can't get the players because they're all being forced into travel.
Really?
yeah,
I didn't notice that. If anything, they had too many kids in Somerville. They only charge Somerville. They only charge $45.
No,
and then you just buy the pads, like the shin guards and the
the
cleats.
rec programs are great.
The
Like
rec
to get the kids
programs
out
are
there
great.
and let them do stuff, and they run for 10 weeks in the fall or whatever it is, and then it's over. But then like you get these coaches from these club teams that are coming in and actually like scouting 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you got to come play for our team.
I sent
That's
Jeff to scout,
$2,000.
but they were high schoolers.
We were scouting
disclosure.
film. That's a whole different thing. No, like I'm talking like scouting like you would for like a collegiate scholarship, and they're like, well, you got to come play for our team, but it's like $3,500 for the season, and then you got to play,
that.
and then you got to play the next season. So it's like it's becoming a year-round thing. So with my first team, this was where we talked about parents a minute ago. I had one guy who flat out told me his kid was only there to be in shape for soccer, playing lacrosse.
Brutal.
He would miss practices, leave practice early. He was always missing. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just, I'll run him. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, he doesn't want to be here. He can't catch. He can't throw. Like, I need basics at least out of him.
Yeah. I still have a team to run here.
So I got him into a defensive midfield position where he could play a little defense because he had footwork from soccer and stuff. And then he would run off the field the second that we started going offense because he couldn't catch the ball. Mm-hmm. He understood his role. It was great. And it was working. We're at a tournament, and his father comes onto the sideline.
Oh, I love
and
this.
gets in my face
about
why is my kid constantly running off the field? Now we were playing a bunch of teams that were a little below us, so they were turning the ball over, and we were just constantly going offense.
Hey, Dad, I know your son better than you do.
And he's in my face, like screaming at me, pointing in my finger in my nose, kind of argument, and I'm sitting there with just my hands in my back pockets because I'm just getting heated. And a couple of the dads that were coaching me like dragged him away and having to tell him like, do you know what he does in his spare time? Like he does cage fighting for fun. Like get out of his face.
So that's like your moment when like they crossed the line. I remember we went to a 7-on-7 tournament in Monmouth. So 7-on-7. So Steve, you're so smart with sports. You'll appreciate this. 7-on-7. It's like touch football.
So 7-on-7. I assume there's 7 players on one side and 7 on another.
Yes. He can be taught. So you go to these tournaments, and
it's a talent. It's a talent. What can I say?
It's touch football, like you played in gym class, and you go there with one lineman to snap the ball, and you have a quarterback, and you have 5 players who are, running backs, receivers, but you can only pass.
Okay.
And as soon as a kid is touched, they're down. And your defense, there's none of the fat guys, no linemen. It's just linebackers, cornerbacks, strong safety, free safety, viper, joker, bandit, dog.
The smoker and the midnight toker.
You know all these, right, Steve?
Yeah, I'm following.
So
tell the fucking story.
Tell the fucking story. No, so it's this huge tournament, and you're going against these games. Anyway, we show up for this one. It's the third one we've been to in 2 weeks, and there's this parent who is vicariously trying to live through his son, which is sad because the other kids pick up on it, and they give him shit, and it sucks. He's a good kid or not, the other players they pick up on it, and
hey man, is your dad gonna blow a blood vessel this game?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll never forget it. We showed up, and it was like I want to say it was like 4th of July weekend or something like that. We showed up with like 13 kids, literally going out there with like our 3rd string and 4th string defense, right? And we're getting torched. It's 7-on-7. It's more meant for quarterbacks in the offense, like you're breaking down coverages, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. Steve.
Follow.
Right? So the quarterback can make his reads and everything like that.
I've seen Remember the Titans.
Yeah. And the 1-5, he's losing his mind. And
Such a good movie.
I knew this was coming. I spoke to him. I was like, listen, we got like 13 kids here. They're not very experienced. This is a good thing. Mm-hmm. As a coach, this is a good thing. I want to see them struggle. I want to see them respond to adversity. I want to see how they're going to learn and grow. You want that as a coach. They need to experience that. So we knew we were going to get our butts kicked, but this is a good thing. Second game ends. I walk off into the bathroom. I'm standing there at the urinal. This thing is packed. I feel
urinal?
like, yeah. The bathroom.
They were crossing streams.
Yeah, don't cross the streets. The bathroom's packed, right?
They had like a trough
I'm standing
situation.
there. I'm standing there. I got my dick in my hand. There's someone next to me on each side. Next thing you know, this same father pokes his head right next to me, Steve. He's right here. You got to fix that defense. I'm shaking off a fucking.
Can I put my dick away first?
Seriously? Like this is what it's come to? For those of you not here, I'm talking to my hand right now up next to my face. This is what it's come to. But Steve, what's sad about it is that is so
I think in the football culture, that's worse.
Yeah, I feel like football
watch
parents are
your
really
Varsity Blues or your Friday Night Lights,
Yeah.
as we're movie people, that's...
Yeah. I don't want your life.
Yeah.
You would think, though, that people having grown up and seen those movies and they know that stereotype, that they would be a little more self-aware.
No, because Steve, we grew up watching that.
Yeah.
The people that are...
Yeah, I guess they're a little older than us.
10, 12 years older, maybe they saw them, but they're like still... And you still have some older parents out there that are...
I do notice that. Like, I notice a lot of... Like, even Tyler, my son... the other parents, like, they all seem way older than us. I'm like, are we just that young? Or what the fuck's going on? Like, nobody else had a kid around that age?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got none. I'm 37.
I got none. I'm 34. But you got to remember, like, there's a few curses that come with coaching.
Yeah.
The first is that there are parents who, no matter what, know more than you, even though you spend more time with their kids than they do.
Sad but true.
You could win a game, dominate it, walk off the field, and they are there telling you what you did wrong. You could lose a game, and you're feeling like crap, like you just got blown out, or hey, it was a close one. You know, like you were saying before, and you fought it out. And there's the parents ripping you apart. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, guess what? We actually, we do things for a certain reason, for the betterment of the whole, because it's about putting puzzle pieces together and making the whole thing work. And the other part of it is, no matter what you do, it's never good enough. And that's not across the, I mean, it's never good enough just because, I mean, there are parents who are great. I have great relationships with some parents that, you know, I still keep in contact with. But there are those that no matter what, you can never do the right thing.
See, I guess
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I guess I lucked out because I don't really. I've had one or two over the years that have, you know, over 5 years of coaching now that have been a bit of a problem. But and maybe it's because like football is more of like across the board, like everyone's played it or been involved in it at some point. Like lacrosse being a little less mainstream, I don't run into it as much because I get more parents who are like I get the dads who are like, I wish that this existed at my high school. I would have played. So they don't understand it, and they really can't question me because they really have no clue what they're looking at.
The best analogy I can make for it is like, you feel like you've seen The Great Outdoors.
Oh yeah.
John Candy.
Like you're John Candy.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Ball bear chase.
The old 96er, I'll give it a try. You're John Candy, and then you have those parents who are Uncle Roman.
That's a very good analogy.
Oh, we're grilling today. Hot dogs. They got lobster tails. He wants hot dogs. You know, like
Always trying to one up. You always think they know what's best.
my favorite thing to say to them when they say that is, "Why aren't you on the sideline?
You care so much. What the fuck are you doing all the way up in the stands?
You care so much. Why the fuck aren't you out here at practice?"
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me ask you this. In the same...
I just got nervous.
No, I mean, in this, well, kind of the flip side of this, you see these parents that are, you know, way over the top, maybe too involved in a manner of speaking.
All right.
What about parents you think that maybe coddle the kids, that are too soft on the kids? Do you ever get any overprotective parents? Like,
Absolutely.
How often is that a common thing? Do you see that a lot?
You get the
Because I mean, I know you hear about it on the news and, you know, certain podcasts, certain types of.
Timmy can't come into practice today because he didn't sleep 10 hours last night.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people, maybe certain authors might want to tell you that, you know, kids today are coddled more than they were. What's your opinion on that? I mean, because you guys, keep in mind, you guys have a much closer relationship to younger generations than the average guy.
The kids today are growing up different than we did. We grew up playing outside. We grew up running around, everything like that. Today's generation, not so much. Today's generation, not so much used to dealing with failure. You're not going to be the best at everything you do. That's just the way it is. There's always someone better. Like, look, you know, Steph Curry, LeBron James, guess what? There's still someone better. You may not see him every night, but there's still someone better out there. And the only thing we can do is point you in that direction for you to get better. But it gets very frustrating with the excuses and the complaint. Well, it's too sunny today. It's sunny for everyone. It's sunny for everyone. Oh, well, it's
too sunny for the other kids on the field.
It's too windy today. Guess what? It was windy on D-Day.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
I think that because you've been in the high school level, so you've dealt with teenagers.
And that's
the whole
what
time.
pisses me off so much more.
But you've seen. So what I think
your
is
players are old enough to make excuses for themselves.
Exactly.
Right, but you mentioned this in a previous episode about like the helicopter parents, and I think that's
pretty much what I'm referring to.
Yes, listen to it today. Yeah.
It's that in between. So where I'm dealing with right now is I have 12-year-olds that I've had since they were 7 or 8.
You're in a more difficult spot than I am, I think.
I disagree because I feel like the group that you dealt with like the championship team a couple of years ago and like your Somerville group was in that era of the I have an excuse for everything kind of generation.
Okay.
Which
Those
is
were
that,
tough
like,
kids, though.
Not saying they weren't tough.
No,
but
like those kids didn't really make those excuses.
No, but I'm saying like that age range with what you were just talking about kind of comes with that
I
like
understand.
the like 23 to 17, 18 right now is that kind of helicopter parent era,
They're
so to speak.
commonly referred to as iGen, the
That
internet
one.
generation.
Yeah, where they have an excuse for everything. It's never their fault. It's never this. It's never that.
He wasn't
And
wearing his brand new Nike
and
gloves.
that was
bullshit.
that
I
was
think
my,
I think the actual age range is like kids born post 1998, like when the internet really became like a common thing. iGen.
no,
Because
because that's what I'm dealing with now.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's iGen.
I don't have that problem.
Time out.
Okay.
What gen are we?
Millennials.
Millennials, technically.
We're older
We're millennials?
We're elder
older
millennials.
millennials.
I thought we were the Generation X.
No, we're
we
right on
could
the
be.
border. See, the thing is, a lot of people consider our generation, like in this like 6-7 year span,
Yeah.
in like the end of the 70s to like the 85, 86.
That's when we were born.
That's our age. But the thing is, we're old enough to have grown up without the internet, but we're also young enough to have grown up with it. You know what I mean?
Listen,
So
we were
grew
old
up
enough to see.
alongside it.
We were old enough to see the Ultimate Warrior Power Press Hulk Hogan. Okay, in
Exactly.
Canada. Can I sign up to be a non-millennial? I don't want to be.
Listen, you don't want to listen here. You don't want to be a non-millennial. People give millennials a bad name because the other thing is that people blame millennials for shit that older generations did.
I coach millennials.
You don't, because millennials are way out of high school by now.
That's it. It was kind of stuck. It was kind of stuck with a group that
I'm totally lost right now.
That's my point. People don't have the right terminology when they
Okay.
talk
It
about
was
this stuff.
stuck.
Alright.
It was stuck to the group of entitled, like, need their phone in their hand kind of hipster generation was kind of what was tagged as millennials.
Okay.
Yeah.
Technically, based on how it all breaks out, we all fall into it. Eliza Fleshender does an amazing stand up on this where she's talking about elder millennials. And she's like, gather round, I will tell you the story of the landline. Like, stuff like that. And technically, yes, I think I'm the first year that hits millennials is like 82.
Do you know how to use a rotary phone?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Put it in front of my niece and nephew last month. They had no clue.
That's how you figure out the cutoff. Put the rotary phone. All right, dial a number. Can
I
you
can't
do it?
open the
Yes.
screen.
All right, you're not. I
Do you remember messing up on it? Yeah, 7, 2. Fuck.
Damn it! Especially when you got to like the last number.
Yeah.
And you're like, son of a bitch!
Listen, I'm old enough to have known how to use them, but I'm also young enough to not have to depend on them. We were high tech, we just had fucking
Well, no,
buttons.
but so the funniest thing, because you've been to my grandparents' house, they had a rotary phone hung in a box that swung open that looked like an old twist phone with
God.
the thing on it. You never saw this? It hung on the
I
kitchen
might
wall. It was
I don't like as
20 plus years
I
ago.
was there more when I was a little older than I was when I was a kid. I was only there like twice when I was young.
Yeah, I'll never forget this. They had one of the like 1920 something, like you ran the crank and like Mary, the receptionist, like plugged wires in to connect you. It was the antique, but it flipped open and it had the rotary phone inside of it. I'm like, you didn't really upgrade here. It's
Can do some Abbott and Costello routines with that.
My grandparents had the rotary phone, and they had like the radiators in the house, and they used to put like boxes over them and look like big presents around Christmas time.
Yeah.
That's how old we are. And also, before we realized it's not good to smoke in the car with kids.
yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
I saw an
I
ad.
cracked the window. It's fine.
I saw an ad somebody put on like Facebook today. It was from like 1970 something Woolworth. And
oh God, I remember, dude. We had a Woolworths.
Woolworths in Somerville.
it was the
Just go down-
Somerville. It's now the garbage beer place.
Yeah.
Oh, the Village place.
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
It's not a garbage. It's good
I have
time.
heard nothing good about it, but
You're
won't-
hearing right now.
They're-
It's
they
good.
they
I'm not gonna
started
blast them on the
themselves a
podcast.
rivalry with Tapestry.
yeah, and that's our people.
And that was like we
well,
rep
Colin's
Tapestry.
still at Tapestry.
Collins and
right?
Tapestry.
yeah.
Tapestry.
Well, listen, we rep Tapestry pretty hard.
Yeah, I've been going.
I
to
like Tapestry.
But no, my point is that they from what I understand, they started the rivalry.
Yep.
Like it could have been all.
It could have been
everything
sunshine and
sweet.
rainbows.
What is this? Jets and Sharks? They're going to snap their fingers while they're
Kinda,
playing the beer?
bro.
Essentially.
It kind of is.
I mean,
Really?
Somerville is
listen,
getting very like hipster.
You don't live in Somerville anymore, bro. You don't know what it's like here. You don't know what it's like. We live rough, man. We live raw. Okay?
Which craft brewery am I going to go to?
You go to Tapestry, motherfucker. Otherwise, you're getting shanked. We're going to let the air out of your ass, bitch.
And your tires.
So this is related to coaching.
I told you this was going to happen.
You know it's going to happen. What are you gonna do?
This is us.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was saying about like that middle generation was where I had the high school team this year, and I had some really good players, but I had some soft players at 17, 18. My 12-year-olds could have beat my varsity team this year. And it was just because I feel like they've been raised a little more by people like us. A lot of the parents that I have kids on my younger team are kind of grew up around the same era that we did, where they worked going through high school. They, bought their first car by themselves, little things like that. They don't feel entitled to anything, so they're not passing that down of like, well, here's this. You can have anything you want. Like, I got one guy who does very well. He helps me coach and everything, does very well for himself. His kids work their ass off, and his son is probably one of the best players. He puts in the time. His son will call me and be like, Coach, can I do a private lesson? Like, the kid wants to put the work in because he's been taught to work. That like varsity level that you've kind of dealt with for the last 4 or 5 years, Rob, is like that end of, I think, where anything they want, they got it generation.
But do you think that that's a generational thing and not so much a class thing? Because there's plenty of kids within that generation whose parents don't make a lot of money.
No,
you know what I mean?
I'll go along with that because, where I was coaching was a very diverse socioeconomic status.
Mm-hmm.
And you had kids who worked from both ends.
Mm-hmm.
All right, both ends of the spectrum, I'll say it. Like, there were kids whose parents had money and they busted their ass. There were kids who were taking care of their parents who busted their ass. And then there were the kids in the middle who, it's like we talked about before.
Just didn't really give a shit.
It's not that they didn't give a shit. It was that they wanted to be part of something. They enjoyed playing the game, but they knew they weren't going to be anything spectacular, which doesn't mean they can't be.
See, but I love those kids.
I love them too because
they generally put the most work in.
Mm-hmm. You can make them grow. I mean, the thing you got to remember about it, Steve, is this. It's a grind. Coaching is such a grind at the high school level. And some people are going to hear me say that and roll their eyes. No. You go at work all day. You practice till, end of the school day, 3:30, whatever, till 6:30 at night. Mm-hmm. You're in the office till 7:30, 8 o'clock. You leave, you go home, you watch film for an hour or two, and you do that every day. And then Friday comes, because it's game day, and pregame meal, team meetings, watch more film, final adjustments, go play the game, you come back. If it's a home game, you're back home maybe 11:30, 12:30 at night. I mean, like in your own home. If it's an away game, 12:30, 1:30 at night. Because right away you go back to the field house and you start breaking down the game film because the kids are coming in the next day. Sorry. The kids are coming in the next day because you have to give them their feedback on every play. You did this good. You did not do this.
And you got to have that shit in your head.
And you write it down. You grade them out. And then guess what? The kids leave. You're there scouting next week's opponent till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon sometimes. And then you go home and you watch more and more film. The point is that your job as a coach, whether the kid is poor, rich, has good parents, bad parents, is taking care of someone, your job is to coach them. And what you do on that field is going to translate into life. And you have to make those connections.
So I think the biggest thing at the varsity level, when you start getting to the varsity, the collegiate and things like that, is, you have to win. Otherwise, your job is in jeopardy. Obviously.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So much more is on the line.
So you have to put the best product out there.
I took a straw poll. You just lost yourself the Hall of Fame.
But at the end of the day,
Did you watch Remember the Titans just leading up to this?
No.
Okay, you sure?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I think
That's just how many times I've seen that movie.
It was a great movie.
Amazing movie. The people that succeed the most, I think, at this is people who understand that, first and foremost, not everyone is cut out to be a coach. And this was something that my head coach in high school,
Great coach.
amazing coach.
Great coach.
And
Not the best gym teacher.
We'll delete that part. But
Let's just say I know for a fact he was very passionate as a coach.
yeah,
Maybe that passion kind of stayed on the field, not so much in the gymnasium.
the guy was when we were in school, Steve, the guy was probably one of the top 10 high school coaches in the country.
It's a shame I wasn't on the team.
I'm not defending
Well,
him. I thought he was an asshole.
I only knew him as a gym
Great
teacher.
coach, though.
the year that I want to say you guys might have been seniors was the year he coached the U.S. under-19 team.
Yeah.
Like, the dude knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, hands down. And I credit him with a lot of where I've come from because I took a lot of what he did and a lot of what I got from other coaches throughout and kind of built my scheme of how I do things. And it's working out well with his son coaching there as well. Like Matt can kind of take a little more of the disciplinarian reins.
Matt's a good guy.
He is.
I don't know.
Yeah, Matt's a real good.
Graduated with me. We played
yeah,
together.
Yeah. Matt was there when we were young, but Matt's a good guy.
But he has, let's say, a little more energy. You know, he's only been coaching for 12, 15 years maybe. So it lets him kind of sit back, and he's still, like, you watch him during a game, he's still just as intense. But, like, from a practice standpoint, because I've helped with a few of the practices. So I took a little bit of everything and, like, watching how he developed, and amazing coach. But one of the things that he told me through high school, because I was never the most talented player. I was never the most athletic player.
Yeah, I've seen you walk. It's rough.
Yeah, well, I trip over, things that aren't there sometimes. But
I can do NSYNC dances like nobody's business.
Yeah. Fuck, how did that end up coming into this?
You knew it was coming.
It's all right.
No, I really didn't. I did not expect to hear that.
We're
tonight.
not going to talk about
won't get
Steve
into
doing.
it.
We're not going to talk about Steve doing Dance Dance Revolution on the boardwalk. Don't worry.
Bro, listen, I have no shame.
We all know Steve can dance. He said that plenty of
I
times.
did that. I used to learn the dances to like music videos,
You can rave.
and I thought that was cool. I
Steve-
rave. I can't rave.
You can
So-
put glow sticks in your fingers and wave
As-
them around.
I can do it as well as like
As
the next
average,
jerk off.
as
you
avid
know?
Scrubs fans, Steve and I learned this dance that Turk did in one episode to go to the
Which-
Breakfast Club one night.
Which is now, by the way, like a famous dance because they
Because of
copied
Fortnite.
it for Fortnite.
Yep.
The Turk dance.
The Turk dance.
Turk?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never watched Scrubs.
Really? What are you doing with your life?
I've been living in a barn.
God damn, man.
I was always going to make a better coach than I was a player. Because I was never the most athletic. I was never the most, like...
But you understood the game.
I knew I was always where I was supposed to be. I understood every formation. I was always where I was supposed to be, and that was what always made me successful.
You did your job.
I had a job. I knew what to do.
I want to ask you guys this too. We talked about the kids that are coddled.
Yeah.
What do you do when you encounter? Or how often do you encounter a kid that's? Oh, what are you breaking the joint up, man?
Nope. Just kind of scratch my face.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, I'm the reason.
What do you do if and when you have a kid who's overly aggressive? Like, is that a thing that happens often, or is it just
Do you mean physically or like attitude?
everything?
I throw them out there.
Throw them out there like on the field?
No, throw them out there like if I try and talk them down,
Call
from
them
their
out.
attitude, if I call them out and be like, the way you're going about things is wrong. Because usually when you have that over aggressive kid, they are not doing what you're trying to teach them to do. Because as a coach, you teach them technique. And it's so silly. Like, I can teach a simple swim move for a defensive lineman or an outside linebacker and say, hey, you're going to strike midline to outside shoulder with your inside hand, jab step, shoot your outside arm over, and then rip through. It's solid technique. You could be the best guy in the world, the best blocker in the world. That's going to get you beat. You know, it's like Dalton says in Roadhouse. You could be the strongest man in the world. You take out his knee and he'll drop. Okay?
I thought you'd be taller.
I thought you'd be taller.
Terry Funk.
Roadhouse. But
Roadhouse.
the funny
Shout out
thing
to
is,
Timmy.
Shout out to Tim.
Yeah, shout
Go
out to
listen to
Tim.
King of the Ring, one of our previous episodes.
when I have that player like that who wants to be overly aggressive with either their attitude, like, you don't know shit, coach. I've had those players. You
Really?
don't know shit, coach. Okay, I know. Okay, fine. Let's do it your way. Go. Again, Again. Guess what? People are watching. All these kids you talk shit to all the time, they're watching. Come on. Do it your way. Go. Again. And then I'll pair it off with someone else. Go. Come on. Do it the way I've taught you. Do it the way that, and again, the way I teach a kid, I also go off of them. It's not so much like there's never one size fits all in coaching.
Yep.
You need to find that strength and that weakness for each player you have, and you need to develop technique and skill for them. But when you have that over-aggressive player, I love aggression, especially in my sport.
Of course.
I love it. You need to find a way to harness it and put it the right way.
How-
I'm not about impressing people. I'm not about putting on a show, anything like that. Use your aggression in the right way. But when you have those kids who are so stubborn in it, fine, I'm going to throw you out there. You know more than me?
I'd see it.
Go. If you
How-
can do it, you can do it.
How frequent do you guys find that? Is it a common thing, or?
I've only had it a couple of times. So like again, like Rob has done like mostly at the high school level, other than, helping with your stepson with the, his like in-home stuff.
Even him.
Yeah, and
him.
I've seen him pop off a couple of times, but I've only run into it a handful of times. And like Rob said, it's a lot of like catering to each person's personality.
You have to figure out how they're going to respond. You don't want them to tune you out. You don't want them to shut you down, right, Jeff?
Yeah, and this is something that's been floating around. I meant to say a few minutes ago, and not everyone's cut out to be a coach.
Right.
There are people who can understand the game to no end. They can be the best players in the world. Doesn't mean they can teach it.
Or the smartest.
Or whatever it might be. Yeah, you can understand the game. You can be the best in the world. It doesn't mean you're qualified to actually teach it. Can you communicate it and work it together? To that end, I feel like if you do get it and you are able to communicate it to that point, if you're able to pass it along, you kind of have an obligation. And that's where I feel like some people miss, is like they get it and they're just, well, I don't want to do it. If you understand something to that degree that you can really pass it on and build something, if you care about it that much, anything at all, like you with the union, same thing. Like somebody who's been there for that long, they know that maybe they're 5 years out from retirement, but they could take someone under their wing and say like, look, you're doing really great with what you're doing. Let me take you under. Let me show you a bunch of tricks, like things I've learned, over the last few years, and let me really build you up so that it's going to make your life easier. And these are things that you can hand down to the next people coming up, because the unions and the trades and things like that, like we're losing that at this point. So we need people who are willing to pass along that knowledge.
What's your approach though? Like with an overly aggressive kid, like how do you deal with that?
Because you feel it out first.
Well, that's my thing, is that's something a lot of times you see as a kid. It manifests itself in a young boy,
right? And
if it's not, handled or what's the word I'm looking for? Why can't I?
Addressed.
There you go. Good man.
So
sailor. Good man.
So
if it's not addressed, when it first pops its head up as a kid.
From a sports standpoint, so like from an on-field standpoint, and this is, I think you got to differentiate the two, because I've had this a lot this year. Kids going from, getting into that like 12-year-old kind of like, all right, let's see how big my balls are kind of mentality. I had to deal with that a lot this year, and it was only a handful of them. But is it on field? Is it something they're doing on field and they're being overly aggressive on field? So do I have to correct them with, you're playing outside the means of what you need to do?
Do your job.
Or am I getting attitude and hearing dumb stuff in practice, which was
two different things.
It's two very different things. I want you, it's the only game, lacrosse is the only game that you can legally beat someone with a 6-foot metal pole. Yeah. So I need you to be a little aggressive. Like, I need you to go at people. Or from the position I played, which was offense, is like, you're going to get beat with that pole. So if you're going to crumble and fold every time you get hit, well, I can't use you. I need you to be able to run through that. I need you to be tough. I need you to be aggressive. Knock that dude over. If he's in your way, get through him. Managing aggression on the field and understanding that person just does it on the field, I have a bunch of kids who are great with that. when you start seeing it like during practice, and this is where I'm saying like the 12-year-olds, I'm starting to see it a little bit.
Yes.
They're trying to see like how big their balls are, and they'll like.
And you wait to see
they've
for the
never
flags.
done it to me.
Right.
But I hear it in passing as like I'm walking through something to the assistant coaches who are trying to explain something that I've taught the assistant coaches 50 times over that they know how to explain. So I say, Joe, handle that. And like I can like hear the eye roll as they go, fuck, whatever. And I'm like, really? Like that's how it's going to be? Like I had one kid curse out a coach this year for no reason. I had another kid tell a coach to shut up. And I think it's them trying to test their boundaries, and they know they can't get away with anything with me, so they push everyone else a little bit. And it's okay. That's how you're going to do it. Sit your ass over there.
And the way I see it is that when that happens, I like to let them go a bit, because I really want to see like where is it coming from, and how are they going about it, and how are the people around them reacting. Usually, it's the players. I have no problem calling a kid out on their shit. Oh, F you, coach. Okay. I'm standing right here. You're not impressing anyone. Because the thing about, lacrosse, I always consider lacrosse and hockey like what I call a free flow sport.
Yes.
Like soccer. All right.
Yep.
Football is different. It's not. It's a set play. Everyone's aligned. Got to do your job. You need to do your job. You could have a run break off for 99 yards or a pass go for 99 yards and 10 people do everything they're supposed to do. But because you have one hothead who wants to, hold or not do their job or throw a cheap shot,
Be
whatever,
lazy, whatever it might be.
and all of a sudden, boom, there's the flag. Because that one person and that one act just negated what 10 other people did.
It's like that chain. You're only as strong as the weakest link.
You're only as strong as the weakest link. So what I've always approached is what I love when I have that aggressive kid. And again, love aggression. Love it. Love it. But let's channel it the right
as
way.
long as you can channel it.
Let's channel it the right way. When you call them out on their bullshit and they get all fired up, and you just talk right back to them. Why are you so upset? Why are you so angry? Why are you doing this? And then they get more and more. Because guess what? They do that 9 times out of 10 to feed off of the other people around them.
So this is a funny thing. We talked about like bringing stories and stuff. This was my first year doing a varsity program for lacrosse. And I had a great group of kids. I'm not going to knock them at any point, but they're new. They don't have the level of experience that I have, and I was brought in for that reason. So we lost a few games in a row. They started running their mouth about, oh, coach doesn't know what he's doing. Coach doesn't know what he's doing, this and that. And like,
Bitch, I'm not the one out there losing.
Right. And a lot of it was there was very few experienced players. Like we had 19 kids on the team and maybe 11 were on it last year. So
Bro, you can cough. It's there you go.
Rob's dying.
Sorry.
Get it out, man.
Wrong pipe.
But this was the funny thing. So I hear them in the locker room, like me and the other coaches are sitting in the coach's room, which is right next to the locker room. And I hear him, coach doesn't know, coach doesn't know, coach doesn't know. Because I had changed, we played the first couple of games. I changed the offense, I changed the defense. And then we won one, and then it fell apart again. And I'm like, well, then I hear him, and I go, okay, coach doesn't know. I suited up and played with him. I was like, coach doesn't know? Let's go. I dare any one of you to cover me. I'm 20 years older than all of you. I've got a bum knee. I'm like, I dare any one of you to cover me. And it was just funny. They're like, oh, he actually knows how to play.
You went to Rutgers. Of course you know how to play.
Right, but this was what they didn't understand was like, I get
They just
what I'm
thought you were
saying.
like a guy.
They thought I was just
you were a player.
I was there. I've done it. Like, I've been in your shoes. I know what it is to lose games.
But that's like the common thing you notice with like youth. It's like, the old man. Like, what the fuck do you know? You're just some old guy. You
My dad knows more than you.
Yeah.
Right.
When you're young, you think your dad's Superman, and you grow up and you realize
and
he's
this
just
isn't
a drunk
something I
who
could...
wears a cape.
Yeah.
Who was that?
David Tell.
Yes.
David Tell. That's David Tell.
Me and Baby Shoe. No, but it was just I got so annoyed by it because I'm giving them things that they'd never had before. And my coaching style, as I said earlier, is not to yell at people. I'll pull you aside and be like, listen, you need to work on X, Y, Z. If I start yelling, everyone screwed up at once, and you just need to go to the end line and start. You're going to do sprints.
But do you notice that, like, when you finally do yell, it actually has an effect?
An effect, exactly.
Well, as long as you don't make it your standard practice.
No, that's it.
Exactly.
I generally just talk like, hey, you didn't do that. We got to do this. We got to change this.
It has to come out of left field
When
for it to have an effect.
Exactly. Which is where the guy that I work with, which is why we play the good cop, bad cop kind of thing very well, is he's always on. He's just always loud. So when he starts yelling about stuff, they're like, it's
a real similar approach with like fatherhood. Like, I never yell at Tyler. I talk to him. I might talk to him very seriously, but I never yell. If I yell,
well, then he knows.
You know something happened.
My father was the exact opposite.
So was mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that part in
I
common.
think
you're screaming
we've all
and you've got that vein in your head and you're all red in the face. You look like Roy Scheider watching a kid get eaten by a shark and you're dropping F-bombs at me. Okay, I'll see you later, Dad.
Yeah. And what did I do? Oh, I didn't throw away the cranberry juice bottle from the fridge. Yeah. No, I understand how you get mad. Yeah, it happens. I would be pissed too.
It's a rough life.
Yeah, no, punch a hole in the wall by all means.
Yeah, please.
It's totally cool. I mean, listen, you're well within your rights as a human being.
Yeah. Should I punch myself in the face, or do you want to do it that?
Yeah, listen. I mean, I'm mad at myself right now. I could just go to my room and punch myself in the balls for an hour. You know.
I'm just gonna go in the corner and go fuck myself right now.
But
shout out to whoever said that on the previous episode. Was that AJ?
I think it was AJ.
I'm just go in the corner and go fuck myself right now.
That's one of the things, though. Like, I mean, I feel like maybe you can see it when they're a kid. There's that lack of control over emotion. You know, when the emotion clouds the thinking.
Yeah,
you just start reacting off. You know, you see red. You hear people say all the time, "Oh, he's seeing red." You know, he's just angry. I feel like with boys especially, the only emotion we allow them to see or allow them to exhibit is anger. So that's the only one they ever get good at exhibiting. You know, is anger. And I feel like that's something that has come from history, from years and years ago, how, you know, it doesn't really work in the world we live in today.
No, absolutely not. And it makes me think, like, back in, like, the 40s and 50s and 60s, like, did the guys get around like we are right now and be like, well, I beat the hell out of my wife like this last night. Oh, no, well, I slapped her this way. Like, it's horrible and crazy when you think about something like that.
It is. You're 100% right. It's crazy because it's like men of that time, those generations, they're so severely limited as human beings.
Yes.
They only allow themselves and allow each other to do and say and feel certain things. You know what I mean? Like, we're all fucking human beings, bro. Like, listen, there may have been a time where if you were a little soft, you would have gotten killed. But guess what? We live in America in 2019. It doesn't work like that anymore. No. Okay?
Yeah.
If you cry at a fucking sad movie, no one's coming to pick you up and beat the shit out of you, okay?
But there's going to be people who give you shit for doing it.
Yeah, but those people are assholes, and that's the thing that's key to remember.
Absolutely. Dude, Marley and Me, I cry every time I
watch it. God, I haven't seen the end of that movie. As soon as when he's walking up the steps and you see the hip dysplasia, stop, good.
When I watched that the show, I was talking about with Brian called When They See Us. It's about the Central Park.
I haven't seen it yet. I have to watch that.
Man, bro.
Dude,
no,
you want something that's gonna hit you in the feels,
dude. Like, I legit. I've never watched a movie and legit cried.
I'm going to give all you listeners out there something to laugh at. I just got Netflix 3 weeks ago. So
yeah, because you've been milking my account for the past 5 years.
You sure you're not Gen X?
Thank you for that.
You sure you're not Gen X? Because that's a very Gen X thing to say. Gen X is the generation where they still have to ask for help.
The only reason I got
Netflix
Netflix was because I forgot Rob's password.
What do you think it has something to do with? Swallow?
What, the When They See Us?
No, what's my password?
Oh, no, I know it's a Michigan thing. I just can't remember the numbers at the end. It's Go Blue something. I just can't remember the numbers. But now I've got my own.
Once we get off air, I'm going to tell you my Wi-Fi password, and you're going to crack the fuck up because it's right up your alleys. Again,
dude,
with that?
Again?
I keep trying to scratch my face in the mic.
What is this, your first podcast?
Yes.
Yes,
it absolutely
Your face is
is.
barely hairy. Like, you keep scratching it. What's going on?
I don't know.
You know, honestly, I think this is actually a good place to cut it off right now. We're at over an hour and a half right now.
Wow.
So you guys did great, man. Man
Oh,
and
thank
men.
you.
Man and men.
I want to say thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, like I said, I've listened and it's been awesome.
You guys are some of the few people who have actually been consistent listeners, by the way.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to shout out my brother.
At least as far
hear
as
it.
people I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just talk a bunch of shit about Drew because he's not listening.
Oh my God.
Drew, George, and Louie. None of them are listening.
If Frankie listens, he'd be like, why did you talk about this or that or this
Does
or
he?
that?
Does Frankie listen?
I don't think so.
I'm going to have to reach out to
I'm like
Frankie.
99% sure he doesn't. I don't know if Frankie listens to podcasts, but if he listens to this, he'll probably have a problem with it.
Shout out to KB Toys, 1998.
Oh, KB Toys was
yeah.
great.
All right. Well, again, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Our
Steve.
pleasure, Steve.
For all you listeners out there, you know how to reach us. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, we're at APodAmongstMen@gmail.com. If you want to reach out to us on Instagram, which is probably the best way to do it, you want to get a quick response, hit us up. We're at APodAmongstMen. Also on Twitter at APodAmongstMen. Download the episodes on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Gentlemen, you guys have anything you want to shout out before we head out?
I mean, if you guys want to follow some financial videos every week, I do video every week on just basic financial planning stuff. JK Financial Sensei on Instagram. You go to IGTV, basic stuff. You can find me there. And there's actually a really great spot that we didn't get to talk about like the likelihood of college scholarships today.
Oh, yeah.
I did a few weeks ago, so feel free to find me there and get some interesting financial planning advice.
Go check it out. Rob, anything?
All I'll say is if you're interested at all in getting involved in coaching, just make sure you're doing it for the love of the game and for helping the kids who are playing it.
Absolutely.
Great advice, man.
That is the main number one thing. It is a grind. It is a hustle. You have to put everything you have into it. The hours are going to add up, but it's worth it in the end.
Absolutely.
Amen to that. That's a good place to end it.
It is.
All right, people. You heard it here. See you next week. Peace. All right, don't say bye. That's fine.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, take the headphones off. That's fine. Get the fuck out of my house.